In this tutorial we will be using Adobe Illustrator. Now when you open up your Illustrator, it's best to have it set up the same way that I have in order to follow the tutorial. So go to the right hand corner, the little box over here, and set it up as Essential Classic. So shortcuts in Illustrator are really useful, so just to run through how we use them. Command on the keyboard is what you press, followed by usually another number or letter to jump to a shortcut. Some ones that are really useful are Command Z to undo, Command C to copy, Command V to paste, Command plus to zoom in and minus to zoom out, and Command S to save, which is super important. So hopefully at this point you've developed or are developing a mood board which has got a load of imagery on there to inspire mood and direction for garments and prints, and a Pantone reference colour palette at the bottom. What you then want to do is go to WGSN and their CAD library and download loads of different CADs that would be relevant for that collection. So think about the shape and sort of style that really represent that trend board that you've created. And you want to download more than you need, so eventually your final range needs to be about 6 pieces, and it needs to be a mixed range plan, like what we call a capsule range. So probably a piece of outerwear, a couple of tops, a couple of bottoms. If you're doing women's wear, maybe a dress, perhaps an accessory or two if that's what you'd like as well. So download a huge amount of CADs because you really want to play with them on a board and start to see what works and what doesn't. So if we move over to Adobe Illustrator now, you can see I've just popped my trend board onto a blank document here. So what I'm going to do now is source all the WGSN CADs that I collected at a previous point. Now I've only got a few here, hopefully you'll have a lot more and have them downloaded. And you can just drag and drop them onto your range board. When they've got the blue cross, remember it's always important to embed, if not you won't be able to edit them. And you can continue to drop them on until you've got them all on there. Again, remembering to press embed. And sometimes it leaves a blue box around it, so you can just go and grab your group selection tool and just get rid of that. So what you want to do is gradually get all of them on there. Again, you can make them bigger or smaller and start to work out which ones might create a nice range for you. So again, we're looking for a mixture of tops and bottoms. And again, if they've got a big blue box around them like that, just grab the group selection tool and just delete that away to get rid of it. And don't worry about any pattern fills that are within the CADs at the moment. So as you start to range build, you're really looking at your trend board and working out, a range that sort of suits what's on there. It might be that you find that as you continue to range build that maybe you need a couple of extra items. Perhaps you can't quite outfit build of these, or you've got too many. So continue to sort of play around till you get what you want from your range plan. It doesn't, and you basically want to try and sort of outfit build, so making sure you've got enough tops to bottoms, perhaps an accessory that suits it, and scaling everything so that it sort of sits next to everything the way it sort of should. So you basically want to keep going until you've got all the CADs that you like and that give a good reflection of your trend board. Obviously you can add more at a later stage, or you might start range building and filling in with colour and realise that you might need to add something or take something away, and that's fine. But you generally want to get to the point where you've got sort of 6 main pieces and perhaps a couple of accessories too if you wish, and a good mix, like I said, of tops and bottoms. So the next thing we want to play with is starting to sort of look at the range. Now obviously you've got a colour palette on your trend board. So the first thing you want to do is go and get the eyedropper tool, which might be under the measuring tool depending how you're set up. So the eyedropper tool is this one here. You want to click on each of your colours and drag them over from here over to your swatch library. If your swatch library isn't available, you can locate it under Window and then Swatches. So you want to continue this for all the colours on your colour palette, because it might be that lots of them that you can actually just fill with flat colour. You don't actually need to go and find things. So where a flat colour works is absolutely fine. It's nice to just add things like fabric swatches for denims and perhaps all over prints, just to make things feel a bit more true to life, for example. So for example, these shoes, I just want them to sort of look like leather brown shoes perhaps, or grey, maybe we'll do grey. So I could probably just fill them with some of the flat colours from the colour palette, and that's absolutely fine. What I want to start thinking about is maybe some of the other fabrics that I perhaps want in here. So for example, I might want to update the gingham. I know this has got a gingham in it, but it's not quite the right colours. I might want to find a floral print perhaps that could go on this nice blouse or something, or maybe in the lining of the denim. Perhaps also I might want to do something like a placement print on this plain t-shirt, maybe inspired by these kind of mushroom style prints, or perhaps doing a slogan or something. So the slogan I could even sort of type if I wished. So there's different things that we can get. So to do this, what I want to do is go back to my folder and start compiling some fabric swatches and perhaps some prints. So I've Googled some images, for example, some mushroom prints that I might need to go and edit further in Photoshop. So for example, that one, if I brought it onto my page, you can see it's got a big white background on it. So what I'd probably want to do with that is a bit like we've done in the past, is take that into Photoshop, get the magic wand tool, select it on the white, and remember it's always better to find things with white backgrounds. It just makes it a lot more easier to work with. I mean, you can do things with more busier backgrounds, but it makes it a lot more difficult, and at this sort of level of using Illustrator and Photoshop, I'd keep it as simple as possible. So I'd keep going till I've got rid of any of the background that I don't want, and then remember what we do is save this. So go to File, Save As. We want to make sure it's a PNG file, so I might want to give this a separate name, 2A, so I know this one without the background. And you'll see now that if I find the PNG version of this file, 2A it was, that when I bring it in, it's got no background on it. So if I wanted to pop it onto a t-shirt or something, it would fit on there as a placement print. So the other things I've got is some denim swatches. I found it difficult to find a grey swatch. So what I might actually do here is take this blue swatch and try and get it so that it matches the colour of this kind of denim and grey that I've got in my colour palette here. So I'm pulling the denim into Photoshop here. So you can see here it is in Photoshop. What I'm going to do is do some adjustments to it. First of all, I'm going to go to Image Adjustments, which is where we find most of our adjustments, and go to Hue and Saturation. Now, obviously, I want to get this denim similar to this colour, so I could simply play with the hue here and try and find getting it into a slightly more relevant kind of colour to that. So I know it's slightly more kind of green, that swatch. So to drop down the saturation, for example, that's already taking like some of the blue out of it and playing around with the lightness there. I need to come back to that. I'm going to try with the colour balance now and maybe just play with the levels of green in it slightly. Maybe play around the blue. So we're gradually sort of changing it now. I might go back to my hue and saturation and again just sort of play with it ever so slightly now. Maybe take the saturation down a little bit more. Perhaps play with that lightness. I might even just go back to colour then once more. So you can play with it as much as you like, just trying to get the right kind of levels of colour. And then I might save this as 1A now, just so I've got a variation of that colour. So I could bring that denim in and see if it's sort of getting towards a colour that I might like. And then once I'm happy with it, I could probably just set it to the side of my page, just beginning to work out. And I want to kind of get a few things on here. So another thing that I found in my prints, or fabric swatches even, is a couple of floral prints, just trying to get that kind of feel. So I'm going to pop those into my palettes as well, so bring those onto my page even, because perhaps I might want to use some elements like that. So you want to kind of gather as many sort of fabrics, saving them as most importantly, the fabric swatches and prints before you start building the range. And then it's a case of starting to play around and working out what colours are going to work well and really starting to range build. So as you can see, I'm just trying to start adding some of my swatches in and colours in. I'm making use of the lock tools, which are Command 2, just locks other parts of the selection so I can delete things. And then it's Command, Option and 2 to unlock again. So I can start to try some of my denims that I've created, working out which one sort of fits best or if it's better just to use flat colour. I may also, with my denims, want to add some texture and things that look like kind of washes with them. So I can get my brush tool, choose a brush selection and put that across and maybe change it to a colour For example, I always think white's better. Add some transparency, which again can be found under your windows if you haven't got it there. So it just makes it look more kind of denim-like. I can change the thickness perhaps of those if they're getting a bit big. So if I look at the stroke, maybe down to about 0.5, those might look nice. I'm going to copy them and put them towards the back as well. Just gives it a little bit more kind of depth to it. Again, I'm going to sort of lock and different parts of it. So I might want to do my floral swatch that I found earlier. So I'm going to select the same fill colour so I can fill it all with one. Actually, first of all, so I'm going to go to select same fill colour here and fill it with that swatch. I might want to reduce the size of the swatch, so I can do that with my scale tool. And I just want to do the patterns and take it down by about 50%. You sometimes have to click it a second time to actually get it to do the manoeuvre. So select same fill colour, and you can see it's just sort of dropped it down. Actually, maybe sort of 65 might work nicer there. And then there's some little embroidery pieces on here, which actually I don't like. I can see that's an odd colour, so I'm going to go to select same fill colour, knowing that's not going to be anywhere else, and just delete that. I can also see that the stitching here has got a colour of red, which isn't my palette, so I'm going to go to select same stroke colour, and I think I'll probably change it to this green. That might look quite nice. I can always change it later. And then it's just working out whether I perhaps want the main part of the pinafore to be perhaps that denim again, or maybe a more of a flat colour perhaps. So just working out what feels it best. It looks like there's some kind of transparency on there actually, so if I work it out, I can see, oh, that's 50%, so I'm going to take that up to, there we go, that looks better. So keep playing around with things and moving around. I'm going to play with these jeans. I can see they've got like a little image on them, which I'm just going to delete because I don't actually want that on mine. You can see sometimes there's these boxes, which is just worth just collecting with the group selection tool and just getting rid of any that we don't need. So let's have a look. Let's do select same fill colour again. And again, it's just working out perhaps if I want 2 denim pieces in the range. I don't like flat denim, so what I'm going to do here is again go and get my pencil tool, and I'm just going to draw very loosely a sort of elongated oval, get it to white, drop the transparency down a bit, and then go to Effect, Stylize, Feather. That's a bit too much, so bring it down. You can see it's beginning to come back there. Maybe sort of 4 looks nice, and it will just give like a sort of washed effect there. I'm going to copy and paste that right on top with Command C and Command F. Go to Object, Transform and Reflect, and just drop it over to the other leg there. It might be that actually the lining I want to actually just pop in maybe that floral fabric, or it's doing the waistband as well there. So I'm constantly just sort of checking that it's beginning to really reflect the colours on my trend board here. Again, I might perhaps, if I'm using this kind of grey, it might be nice to put a wash a bit like I've done with the denim on there, so it doesn't look quite so heavy and blocky. So here I've just literally created some text which I've outlined, and I'm going to place that on here for now. So I've got something that looks like a slogan. And it might even be that, for example, like for something like the soles of these shoes, where you just want to go for a sort of typical colour, it might be that it does work with something from your palette perhaps, but you might also want to go to the Pantone swatch library, find a colour book here. I usually go for Pantone coated and try and find a colour that suits it more from a selection in there. It's entirely up to you. So 6 pieces is a small range. It might be that you don't feel like you can get all of those bits on there, but it's just sort of continuing to sort of play around, you know, testing different colours out. Maybe it should be that there is one of the other colours in the range sort of kind of used just to give it sort of slightly more depth and things, until you feel like you've got it right. So do take the time, change colours, and remember that some things would have second colourways in reality anyway, so that's fine. So once you're finished, you can save your range plan as your coloured range plan, so that you've got a coloured and a black and white one, so you can always come back to those original CADs should you need to.